G'day listeners, Sammy Gordon here from Australian Property Scout. If you're loving all the property investment content over here at SBI, you will love the Scouting Australia podcast. Hosted by myself alongside my good mate and experienced investor Jimmy Ibrahim, we unpack everything from real investor stories, mindset hacks, and a massive amount of property investment strategies and much, much more. Check us out over at the Scouting Australia podcast and take your investing to a new level.
This is a Momentum Media production.
Welcome to the Smart Property Investment Show, the podcast by investors for investors.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Smart Property Investment Show. I'm Juliet Helmke, part of the team that brings you all the news over on SPI. Brad Filliponi, co-founder of boxbrownie.com, joins us for this episode to delve into the world of property photography, explaining what led him to develop the online hub that runs the gamut in terms of what you can do with real estate photos. We talk about how much has changed over a decade and what ethics look like in a world where everything is possible when it comes to photo manipulation. Brad, thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure, Juliet. Thanks for having us.
Now, I know that super brief intro that I just gave of your company doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of what you do over there. It is truly a huge endeavor that you are kind of heading up over at boxbrownie.com, and we will be getting into all of that. I promise for our listeners, they can discover all of the various services that you provide and the limits and opportunities that exist in this pretty exciting area of real estate marketing at this point in time. But before we get into that, Brad, a bit of a congratulations, because as I understand it, boxbrownie.com is coming up on quite a milestone this year, having been founded in 2014. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm really bad with dates, to be honest. But yes, it'd be around that sort of date. It's been an idea in my head for some time now, and it's you blink and it's gone. Like, it's crazy how quick time can go and how far we've got in that amount of time, really.
Yeah, so 10 years, that is pretty big, or around that, if it is 10 years plus or minus a little. So, over that period of time, so much has changed in how we present real estate to the public. As I understand it, prior to the founding of your site, you actually came with quite a bit of experience in the real estate industry yourself. So you really know where things started. And as I think we'll sort of discover, had quite a bit of a hand in how some of that marketing has changed. So before we get into the business, can you give us a little bit of an intro and tell our audience about your background in property even before this business sort of came into being?
Yeah, sure. Well, I've been pretty much a real estate photographer close to 20 years now. When I first started in the industry, I was shooting for real estate professionals on film camera. So digital wasn't really out then. I went to TAFE and I sort of studied my photography diploma. And it was at that pinnacle point where digital had just come out. So it was a year-long course. My first 6 months were doing darkroom activities and using film cameras. And then I had to modify the course halfway through it for the digital because it was coming out so fast. So,
oh, wow. Really at that nexus.
Yeah. Which is cool. And then shortly after that, I got a job in real estate, but I never sold. I was quite young back then, and unlike these days, there's a lot of young dynamic agents out there, but 20 something years ago, it was not really a thing. So I was just in customer service. I worked for an awesome, boutique property office here on the Sunshine Coast. They're still active now, selling deep waterfront canal homes and also beachfront property.
Oh, so beautiful.
At that age, I really knew what it took to market a property and help it sell. And let's face it, as we said earlier, it really does all start with photos.
Absolutely. And so tell us about that point in history in real estate and kind of what you saw, having, a bit of a background in photography, then getting that experience in real estate. What was the kind of gap, shall we say, that was existing there in that sector?
When I first started, I did a bit of part-time work with a photographer here on the coast. Real estate photography wasn't a standard thing like it is now. All the top agents were doing it. And back when I started, our local newspaper had the property week in it. And we only had glossy pages, let's say on the first 5 pages and the last 5 pages as well of the magazine inside the newspaper. So a lot of the pages were black and white. And that would be all the average agents usually advertising there. and all your premium and bespoke agents were really on that glossy paper. And that's what we were shooting for. So that's probably the biggest change I've seen is literally everything now has professional photos within reason, whether it's a rental, property management, commercial, or of course, residential. So Australia, we travel a lot all around the world, and Australia has some of the best marketing that I've seen in the entire world, to be honest.
I would agree with that. I've been around a little bit, and I certainly have my eye on real estate sectors out and beyond our borders. I think that, you see the amount of effort that this industry puts into really putting the best foot forward for the properties in question. And I think that it's something that is really stands a testament to how seriously we kind of take this in this country. So here we are back about, 10 years ago. We know how things are going in terms of property photography. Tell us about that next step for you. So where did the sort of initial idea for the company come around? And I know you have a co-founder as well. So tell us a bit about that relationship and the genesis of this amazing thing that you've since built.
Yeah, so it was one of those stories you read about. This boxbrownie.com, it was a platform I needed myself as a photographer. I used to photograph up to 9 houses a day, every week. I was extremely busy and just in the rat race. I just felt like I was in my car from shoot to shoot all the time. I was going to houses. I was like, if you remember that cartoon show, The Tasmanian Devil, that was like me. I'd roll in, I'd get the house ready, even though they're supposed to be ready before you get there. Education has come a long way in real estate marketing too, but I go in, I run around, get the house ready, shoot it, and I was like so efficient. But the problem is, like any photographer, you make your money when you're shooting, not when you're editing. You do, but you don't. And I tried hundreds of outsourcing websites, obviously, third-party offshore, and none were any good. They were so inconsistent. They were super expensive. There was no easy payment. It wasn't simple. So that's when the penny dropped for me. I was like, oh, well, I need this myself. And I love my job and I still do, but I just felt like I'd been in the industry so long and I just needed a change. And I suppose I just created that change, to be honest. And looking back, I didn't know what I was doing back then. I built 2 prototype websites that worked. They just weren't scalable. I didn't even know what that looked like. I was just a young guy having a go, like I still am now, and just worked my way through it and found my amazing business partner, Mel, who obviously headlines all the tech, extremely smart guy. And the collaboration between us two with my experience and his experience, it was just like yin and yang, literally. Haven't looked back, and it's been a crazy ride, but super fun and super proud what our whole team has done.
Amazing. And so what would you identify as like the point of difference that you were able to bring to the market then? And kind of how did you, I guess, set yourself apart from the other offerings that were out there saying like, yeah, we can retouch your photos, but you knew that real estate needed something pretty specific?
There was no website like ours, to be honest, Juliet. And I don't really think there's much like it now, as crazy as that sounds. There was lots of people editing photos. We're not doing anything different, but we kind of are at the same time. We're 100% transparent. So you hit our website, all the information is there, all the pricing is up front. It's not like email me for a price list, or it's not like one credit buys $1, none of that. It was just super simple. We have no subscriptions, no monthly fees. It's like, as they say in the US, we're like a la carte. So you only pay for what you need. And people love that because early days, we were speaking to VC, funds and things like that. They're like, you have to be subscription. You can't do this without it. You have to move to Sydney to a major city. You've got to do this. You've got to do that. And we were kind of like, thank you. No, thank you. We sort of feel we can do it from here. This is how we want to do it. When you've got a gym membership, no one likes paying for it when you're not using it. Let's face it. No one wants to pay for something they're not using. So we just try to be the real fair guys in the industry. And we stand by that. And what's even better is we reduce our pricing as we scale up.
Wow.
Like we're just that, we just try to be the fair guys in the industry. You don't have to use us all the time. Just use the system whenever you want it. We've always got your back. And we have that in 4 different languages now, 24/7 customer support. So it's like English, Japanese, French, and Spanish as well. So 24/7. Yeah, to date, there is no other business like us. We just try and make things really easy and just always be there.
That's amazing. And I know that you have scaled up quite a bit since the sort of beginning days of boxbrownie.com. It's
Are you looking to invest for a big return, but are unsure which suburb is up and coming and guaranteed to give you the most bang for your buck? Smart Property Investment and Pure Property Investment have unveiled the Fast 50 report for 2025, identifying the suburbs backed by research that are giving investors the highest returns. Don't make any investing decisions until you read the free report. Visit smartpropertyinvestment.com.au to download the report.
Welcome back. I'm joined by Brad Filliponi of boxbrownie.com. Now, Brad, before the break, we were chatting about sort of the beginning of your business, how things all started for you, identifying a little bit of a need in the sector for, pretty like upfront, fair pricing services for real estate photography, which you yourself, as you mentioned, was something that you saw that you needed working then as a real estate photographer. So tell us about basically the first product that you put out.
Yeah, we had a few. So they're all the basic ones, which still continue to be our best edits. So image enhancement is number one. It's the brush over edit I used to do as a professional photographer. I remember when I used to outsource photos myself, they used to cost me $5. That's what I used to pay as a photographer. Mm-hmm. Now we offer it to the market at Australian is a $2 edit. We do 17 Photoshop tasks for that amount of money, whether you've taken the image yourself or your photographer has. Things like, replacing the sky on an overcast day, greening grass, lightening, brightening, contrast, saturation, straightening verticals, removing fridge magnets, creepy crawlies, and things like that. Like that's our generic edit. Another one we did was day to dusk. It's like a twilight conversion. Mm-hmm. Here in Australia, it's proven to get up to, I think it's 4 or 5 times more clicks on your hero shot. We'll activate the lights. We put in a beautiful sunset. Everything Box Brownie does is all ethical marketing. So we'll never put a sunset in the image unless we're told to, because we don't know which way the house faces. So
of course, yeah.
We know rules, we know regulations. And speaking of that, virtual staging, that's our best seller globally. And a really fun fact, which I'm proud to say, is right here, right now and beyond, boxbrownie.com, we do the most virtual staging edits in the world. So wow. Super cool.
And when did that start? Was that an initial product offering or did you bring that in? Yeah, no, right from the start?
It was. And it wasn't that good, to be honest, when we first started. I won't lie, but a lot of hard work and determination, and we've really chiseled it down, and we've got a market-leading product. It's not AI. Obviously, AI will get really good, but at the moment, it doesn't compete. At the moment, with AI and virtual staging, you get what you pay for. But of course, that's not saying it's not going to get better. I'm just sort of talking right at present moment.
Yeah.
But when we first entered the US market, I think it was 2017, I remember we went there to our first show, which was Inman in San Francisco. They were offering virtual staging at $80 US a photo.
Wow.
We entered the market at $32 US. It's now $24 US, to give you an idea. And people were just like, they knew who we were before we got there. And then we've just been disrupting ever since. So that edit was there. We had item removal, which sort of speaks for itself. We had floor redraws. We had quite a few of the products we have today. We did have then, but like any business, you streamline things, you get the quality better. And of course, like any business, scaling is an issue for anyone, and photo editing is no different. So we've built systems, world-leading systems. We build all internally here at the Sunshine Coast in Maroochydore. So everything's built in-house, which is super cool. So hopefully that answers that question okay.
Definitely. And shout out to the Sunny Coast. We love all of our community over there where things are really going pretty strong for the housing market. Some, challenges, some opportunities there, but we are certainly keeping an eye on everything that's going on in the Sunshine Coast. So it's great to be talking to some people who are on the ground there and have their fingers in the pie of that real estate market, as well as far, far beyond, because I know that you are global.
Yeah, so we rep Sunny Coast pretty well. Everywhere we go, we're very proud, always showing people the beaches near us, and we've had clients visit, which is pretty cool. So everyone loves this area.
Oh, what's not to love? I mean, I myself, I wish I could get that back there this weekend if possible, but sadly. Down here in Sydney, where, the beaches are pretty good too, but I have a soft spot in my heart for the sunny coast. But obviously, you speaking of, Australia, the Australian market, that's where you started. That was sort of really where you, coming from that area, you launched in the Australian market. Is that right?
Yeah, it's correct. Look, we had, international clients early days, but generally it's really boots on ground in Australia. Me being a Sunshine Coast photographer pretty much my whole working life, I had a lot of contacts here. So it was just me persuading them, hey, I'm not shooting photos anymore, but I'm doing this idea over here. A lot of people didn't understand it back then, but yeah, a lot of people understand it now, which is pretty great. So yeah, starting here in Australia, being an online business, you get signups literally just about anywhere.
Right, yeah.
I think to date, we've had signups in every country but 2.
That's amazing.
They all haven't spent money, but I think 117 countries pay us money every month, put it that way.
That is still quite a reach.
Yes.
And so let's talk about some of the expansion that you did in terms of your product offering. Like, walk us through that, because obviously tech has changed quite a bit, and I'm sure that you've needed to be nimble in adjusting to that as well.
Yeah, look, technology, it's an amazing thing. It moves so fast and rapidly. I think now with technology, like every year, it feels like we're developing 5 or 10 years quicker. I think the way it's going, that is really my business partner's forte. Mel Myers, he's an amazing business partner. He really keeps his eye on all the tech. And I think tech's like anything. It's almost like building a house. You've really got to plan for the future. And you've got to have those foundations right, because if you don't and you try and add tech onto it later on, there can be so many issues, bugs, and things that I've worked out along the way. But I think it's like anything. You've really just got to plan for the future and sort of think, well, where are we going to be in the next year or 2 or 3? And yeah, that's really how we collectively all feel at Box Brownie. Like, what you see with what we're doing is just the start. We've got some huge blue sky ideas and opportunities, but there's only so many hours in the day at the same time. So you can only just do what you can do at the moment.
Of course, yeah. Now, I'm also really interested to hear about your clients, the people who are coming to you guys saying we need to present these properties as best as possible. When you started, was that a certain sort of demographic? And by that, I mean, was it more agents or more independent people, perhaps leveraging properties landlords saying, oh, I want to do these photos and maybe have a go at advertising this myself. Have you found that your client base has shifted at all? And really, like, how do you kind of break that down?
Yeah, like we have a real broad range of clients. Predominantly, I would say they would be real estate agents. I haven't got the percentage. We have, real estate agents would be our highest, and also photographers. We have a lot of property photographers who use our service as well, which is just amazing. But then,
so they're kind of that all-in-one service, basically, for whoever is needing the marketing material. Yeah, 100%. They take the photos. They work with whomever to sort of amp those photos up to make them be the best they can be, and then they're providing that service to whether it be the agent, property manager, the landlord, who be it.
Definitely. So like we might have a real estate agent who might have a photographer. Then they might be like, hey, Box Brownie, I need to remove Aunt Betty's furniture and add some virtual staging in. Like that's one example. Or we might have a property photographer, just like me, who was shooting all day and needs someone to edit their photos quick and speedy overnight. And they just want to use that image enhancement and other services. But then we have mums and dads, let's call, who have an Airbnb that we might just get a single shoot from them. We have builders, developers, architects, interior designers, like literally everyone uses our system. So pretty much if you want to buy, sell, or even market property, we'll work with anyone. So that's sort of, the doors are open for anyone, but I would say real estate agents have really just taken it on in so much more.
Yeah. And I think with the growth of that sort of client base, it shows how much marketing has changed and the importance that we're placing in the imagery to really get people through the door, literally. So I wonder if you could speak a little bit to that. I mean, what is the value now on good real estate photography? Has that changed over time? And is it something that you think that we could see changing even into the future?
Oh, definitely. Look, I think photos is 1,000 words, and that's always been the case, right? Right when I was taking photos on film camera, getting it processed at my local Big W photo lab, and then I'd throw out the bad ones and keep all the good ones that looked exposed because you couldn't see what was on the back of the camera, right? So it's always started with photos, and photos are the first point in selling or renting any home. So I think nothing has really changed there. I think what's great is, there's further technology like virtual tours. They're a really great tool, especially during COVID. A lot of agents had their own, 360 cameras. They were quite prepared for it. They could go around and circulate a property. Almost people could walk through it before they've even called the agent. Like, that's great technology. But where it's going, I think, who knows? Like, the phones are getting pretty snazzy these days. And, who knows? We might just be doing augmented reality walkthroughs, using our phones and cardboard cutouts as glasses, you know what I mean? Or they might even be holograms that we could walk through our phones. Who knows? So the future will get quite crazy. The great thing about Box Brownie, we're always on the cusp of all that. We build the tech. We see what's out there at conferences. One stage we did over 300 conferences in 1 year. We do a lot of travel because obviously we have clients literally everywhere, close to 200,000, and we're always doing conference after conference and seeing the latest technology. So that's really what we want to be. We just want to be the easy place for agents or anyone who owns a house or a photographer to outsource their marketing and just always be available because, marketing a house is so important. I think looking good's being good. Much if you're on a dating website, I guess you'd say. Like, of course, you're going to have the best photos. You're going to put your best foot forward. And it's just the same with housing. If you get one chance at a first impression, and that's what Box Brownie's all about, just ethically marketing your product, which is your house, and making it look as good as it can, just to make your phone ring and get more clicks. Because with property portals these days, that's really where most people are searching. They're probably on their phone on realestate.com, and they're just having a look, or on Domain, and they're literally looking at properties that way. And what are they looking at? They're looking at photos and virtual tours and floor plans, etc.
It's absolutely true. And it sounds like you have a really adaptable model. As you say, the future could get crazy, but I think there's always going to be something to be said for a blue sky above a house in the background. And I think that's always going to be something of a necessity, whether that's in a photo or the virtual reality experience that potential buyers are stepping into. But as all that changes, there will be, I think, as there have been with changes in the past, ethical considerations, as you mentioned, that will arise. And it's something that I want to jump into with you, but we will pick that conversation up after a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be back shortly with more from Brad Filliponi from boxbrownie.com. Welcome back. I'm joined by Brad Filliponi of boxbrownie.com. Now, Brad, we've been talking a lot about your business and the business of photo retouching, broadly marketing of real estate properties in general as well. And as you have rightly said, there are a lot of ethics involved in that. There are ethical lines in terms of how much you change a photo, what you put in, what you take out. And I wanted to talk to you about how sort of what your guiding principles have been as you have grown this company that has, people from all over the world using your services.
Yeah, look, I think ethical marketing is a big thing because obviously we do a lot of work in America. Of course, there's a lot of lawsuits over there. So there's always lots of learnings, and we really put the editing onto the user, right? So that's obviously in our T's and C's. A great example would be that water tank episode that a lot of agents out there would know about. If you don't know about it, probably Google it. 9 News have got an article on it. But
yes, that caused quite the splash for the lack of splash that was visible in the background, wasn't it?
Water tank splash, kind of like that. But yeah, it's just like treat people how you want to be treated, I think. And so it goes as far as, let's say, putting grass down, greening it up. If the grass can be green or it's going to be freshly laid turf soon on that new block, yeah, it's okay to green up the grass. But if you go too far, you can go too far. In Texas, to give you an idea, the MLS run real estate portals literally in each state in America. It gets quite complicated. But in Texas, it's illegal to add grass when it's a rule. So with Box Brownie, our grass replacement is like, do you want grass? Yes or no? Do you want it green or do you want it touched up? So we have like different options for people. I spoke about earlier about, when we we'll never put a sunset in on our twilight examples, like our day to dusk. Another example would be with our virtual staging. It's our bestseller in all around the world in every country. We'll never put fixtures added. So like, let's say shelving, chandeliers, things like that, we won't add in unless we're asked to.
Right.
Because obviously they don't come with a house. Either does the furniture, but you don't want to put shelves or a TV on the wall when it could be deceiving to buyers. So we have all of our presets internally. So if you upload a photo, we have certain rules that our business organization follows to be ethical. But if we're asked to do something like remove a water tank or a power line or something like that, we'll only do it if we're asked to. So that's really onto buyer beware. So if you ask for it, that's on you. But at default, we'll never do it.
Right. And because ultimately the obligation is on the agent or the person who's presenting a property to make the buyers fully aware, the buyers or perhaps the renters, of any manipulation in the photograph in terms of like, this doesn't actually exist. This has been enhanced to show you what could be possible if you buy this house and want to put up a chandelier. And that is something that agents are obligated in many jurisdictions, certainly in ours, to be very clear about when something is a rendering of a possibility as opposed to a photo of what exists now. So it's good to see that you have, those lines, but also that understanding of the fact of who it comes down onto, and knowing that people need to be aware of their own responsibilities when they're marketing a property.
That's it. Like a lot of people, especially in the US, they'll put maybe the before after. Let's say we've got a vacant property. They'll put that online, then they'll put the virtual stage property next to it. And a lot of them will put a disclaimer on the bottom of the photo, which we can organise. Hey, this photo has been virtually staged to show potential or something like that. And then a lot of people, we have a virtual renovation product much before AI was a thing. Ours looks super realistic. It's actually my funnest edit, where we can knock out walls, add pools, literally rehab a whole house if you want, like renovate a kitchen. We can do heaps of cool stuff. Same again. You want to really disclose that. I'd put the before photo up there and then maybe put the after and say, hey, here's the possibility of this property. You might put some tradesman quotes with that as well to really help sell the sizzle and make it easy for the buyers to visualize what it could look like, because a lot of buyers can't visualize, and a lot of the agents out there can, and photographers can. But let's say 90% of the public, they would have no idea what that room would look like with, that there was, let's say that room knocked down and open plan. They couldn't visualize that, let alone just furniture in a vacant space. So that is the importance of marketing. And I said it before, like I think a photo says 1,000 words and you just got to use that photo right. So always disclose, always be upfront. And it's all about being transparent. That way, no one thinks you're being dodgy and misleading.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's so true. And, when it comes to virtual staging, even to put furniture in a home, that's something that needs, I think, to be talked about too. It's a practice that we have seen grow exponentially over the course of, 10 years longer. And I think it's something that consumers are pretty savvy to, but at the same time, technology has advanced so much that it can look pretty seamless. It can also look very obvious. So I'm wondering if you can, for our audience out there, talk us through like how that needs to be done well, and some of the minutiae that if you're someone who's able to do that, professionally and make it look good, that you need to be aware of.
Yeah, look, one of our big bold plans is a push now, buy it now button to get the furniture delivered. That will be a blue sky thing we're working on in the background. But like I think with virtual staging, it's got to be ethical. It's got to look realistic. Things you want to check is the scale right? Is the perspective right? Is it all proportioned? Shadowing is a huge thing from window sources. So we actually add artificial light through the windows that's realistic, but that's what gives it the 3D and the depth. So we'll put, let's say you've got a chair, you'll have the shadows from the legs on the ground. So realistically, our virtual staging is top notch. We're very proud of our product. It's literally, we are the market leaders at it in the world. So yeah, once again, Sunny Coast represent.
Yeah, there we go.
But yeah, like it's all about technology, and you've got to do it right. You've got to use a mixture of 3D programs and Photoshop to get the lighting right. It's not a quick process. AI, it's back in a jiffy. I was just testing one this morning. It looks plastic. It looks fake in my eyes, but I know what I'm looking at. ours are done by pretty much interior designers, and we have our own furniture catalogs that we've like hand selected. So we know that the products are right. All our team has got to do is manipulate them into the photo, add the shadowing, and really make them look as realistic as possible. So it is very time consuming to do it right. Obviously, I'm not saying AI won't get better. I'm definitely not saying that. And when it is good, we'll be offering it. That is what Box Brandy does. But yeah, there's a lot of factors that go into it. So if you put ours up against someone else's, there'll be things I can pick that you probably won't. But I think when you look at something, it looks real or it doesn't. You know what I mean? There's those elements, and that's all the little things that we'll do to your photos to make them look realistic, because we don't want them looking fake. And I run a quality control team within our organization. I have about 40 team members underneath me. We rate photos every month. I look at about 100,000 images. We rate them and secret shop our 2,000 plus editing teams, which is a lot of editors. So we can't look at every photo. I wish I could. I've got OCD. I want the best for my clients, but that is another service we do behind the scenes. We look at every photo under every product randomly to make sure our editors are doing the right thing and training them if they're not.
Now, recently in Australia, real estate agents were ranked as the least professional profession in the country, which was hard for many to hear and spurred a conversation about why it is that the general public might have sort of this negative perception of people. And I think it's something that we need to talk about when it comes down to things like marketing a property, and the fact that when it comes to something like virtual staging, the real estate agent needs to be involved with making sure that they're not pulling the size of the room to make it look bigger, to all of that kind of thing, because people know when they get into the property, they see it. And it's kind of the first line of defense between understanding who they're dealing with, judging who they're dealing with. And I think that that's something that's quite interesting, because while you're working on the photography side of it, when it comes down to the ethical judgment, all of this comes onto the agent and the person who's sort of presenting it.
Yeah, and we do a lot of photography training. So we've got a full blog and YouTube channel. Directly after this chat, I'm shooting a vlog for our viewers, and it's pretty cool. I still get to shoot and train people how to shoot. And so we not only ethically edit your photos, I'm also creating ethical photography videos as well. So on that circumstance, you spoke about, I suppose, how big a room can look. Things I train is obviously smartphones, same thing. We have a world first smartphone app at the moment where you can do virtual staging off your phone. It's the first of its kind in the world.
Wow. Shoots
at brackets, exactly like I did as a photographer. You can remove items and do data dust treatment. Within that app, it's called snapsnapsnap.com. You might know on your iPhone, let's say when you open up the wide angle lens, there's a 0.5 times zoom. Our app at default opens up at 0.6 times zoom because it doesn't make it look like an aircraft hangar inside.
Right.
That's the reason why. And same thing if you're shooting on a DSLR camera, some wide angle lenses go 10 mil on a crop sensor, which won't mean too much to the audience here. But I train people, hey, make sure you're at 12 mils, zoom in a little bit, because you're not going to make things look too big. Obviously, that can be a bit of it can make the phone ring for some agents, and some agents would like the rooms looking bigger. But if you want to be ethical and shoot how the eye sees it, that 0.6 times zoom on your smartphone or that 12 mil zoom on your DSLR is roughly where you want to be, because, there's nothing worse than getting to a property and it doesn't look anything like the photos, let's face it.
You want it to look its best, not better.
Exactly. We always say show your home in its best light, and that's really what we try and achieve here. Yeah, so it's just doing the right thing. That's what it comes back down to.
Absolutely. And it sounds like you have a really good perspective on that in the company. Now, Brad, you've been on this sort of turbocharged growth over the period of the past 10 years. You gave us a little hint of something that maybe you could be working on. Maybe it'll come out, maybe it won't, in terms of the ability to see a photo, buy the furniture that's in it. That's pretty cool. Anything else you want to share with us that could be coming down the pike from boxbrownie.com?
Yeah, I suppose if anyone's listening to this, some of our best clients, we've got clients in the US, one of them spends $500,000 and buys leads every month. You know what I mean? And another mate, I'm having a webinar with, a big webinar in a couple of days. He's the number one agent in the whole of the world, based out of Nashville, Gary Ashton. So a lot of things I try and train and educate a lot of our users, and even big time users and big players that have large teams underneath them. It's not taboo to use your smartphone anymore. If it's
interesting.
Right. So I know a lot of the photographers or a lot of the top agents out there may be like, oh, screwing their nose up a little bit, but I've been in the game a long time and I've looked at a lot of photos, and the quality that's coming out of these phones now, I've shot $30 million properties in Chicago and they look like they've shot with my DSLR. Like, the power that's in your pocket right now, it's not used for every property, but I think we're really just trying to push the smartphone stuff at the moment, because the best camera is the one you've always got on you.
True.
And that's usually your phone, and you don't need another charger. You've always got a phone charger in your car. Using our app, it's very revolutionized. It actually takes up to 70 micro photos within the camera's algorithm in the Apple sort of system at the moment. We're working on Android, which will be out in about a month's time. So that's our real big push at the moment, because, photography can get really expensive. And I think, there's a lot of people are going to be hurting, I think, soon. Inflation's up, house prices are going crazy. When you're trying to sell your house, to try and pay for a photographer, a floor planner, drones, virtual tour, it could be thousands, let alone paying to go on the property portals. A lot of people can't afford it. So I think what we're trying to do is show ethical marketing can be done in other ways. Of course, that's never beating down photographers. They are your golden egg in your marketing. So, of course, I'm not saying don't use them at all, but if you're trying to rent a property, or you've got a property that maybe your homeowner hasn't got a budget, I really feel that everything in the next few years is going to be done on the phone for the real estate agent, let alone, let's say the iPhones have what's called a LiDAR scanner. It's you pretty much video a house and you can almost do a floor plan out of it.
Wow.
That's things we're working on in the background. The tech's, it's there, but it's not efficient. The phones get hot at the moment, but we're working on things like that. So I just think that the future is going to be smartphones and smartphone devices, I honestly feel, and that will probably push into that augmented reality as well, and just so forth from there. So that's where I see it going, but I could be wrong. But phones are getting so good these days. We just got computers in our pocket.
It's true. It's true. And I think that's some good words of wisdom to take away for our listeners here. Consider the power that's in your pocket, and, make good choices in terms of where you're putting your resources. Obviously, we're in full support of making sure that, for the right possibilities and opportunities, that is having a professional photographer, but then also at other times it might be using the tools that we now have that we are walking around with. And isn't it exciting?
Like, best thing to say is I'm not bagging out photographers at all. Like, I think they're awesome. Obviously I'm still one now, but I think everyone needs options. It's like, here's your professional package, and here is a package that's going to look amazing, but the agent can do it themselves. That's really the way up these days. And yeah, it's just options is all I've got to say.
Options is great. We love options over here. So it's been great to hear some of the insight from you, Brad, about the options that you guys provide, and really just how far real estate photography, property photography has come. That's about all we have time for here on Secrets of the Top 100 Agents. Brad, thank you so much for your time today.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having us, Juliet. And hope the listeners enjoyed.
Absolutely. I'm sure they did. Listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, please like or review us on whatever platform you are using to listen in on. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to editor@smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. Stay up to date with the latest on our website and subscribe at smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. And be sure to check us out on social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and X. Thank you for listening. We will be back soon with another episode of the Smart Property Investment Show. Until then, goodbye.
The information featured in this podcast is general in nature and does not take into consideration your financial situation or individual needs, and should not be relied upon. Before making any investment, insurance, tax, property, or financial planning decision, you should consult a licensed professional who can advise whether your decision is appropriate for you. Guests appearing on this podcast may have a commercial relationship with the companies mentioned.
Feeling trapped by rising interest payments? Escape from mortgage prison with expert refinancing assistance from Finny. We have helped hundreds of borrowers break free from higher loan repayments by finding a more suitable loan. Our expert team can quickly assess your situation, and if there's a better lender available, we'll find it fast. Don't delay. Call today. Speak to a Finny mortgage specialist on 02 8866 2444 or visit our website at www.finny.com.au.